Cleon, welcome.
Thank you very much, Deon. Thank you for having me.
Cleon, you and I spoke about the Sectional Titles Act and, what happens when people are elected as trustees, and maybe the need to provide some information, to get people ready to actually, become trustees and know what to do. But before we get into that, maybe you can just tell our viewers, who you are and why do you know a lot about the Sectional Titles Act and trustee duties.
Thank you, Deon. I studied law, and there I did a couple of courses in sectional title law and property law, and there my interest was sparked after my studies. I did a couple of diplomas and certificate from another respective person, and we continued to live in a sectional title development. And any of the viewers who's actually lived in a sectional title development knows there are issues from the day-to-day running to financial issues to legal issues. And I was fortunate to
have a difficult chairperson. Maybe sorry for interrupting.
Yes. Difficult chairperson, trustees who don't know maybe the law, and obviously occupants and owners who might have different views than yourself.
Yes.
And I was fortunate to be of assistance to the trustees and chairperson on various legal matters, and from there on my interest sparked, and that's how we are here today.
Fantastic. And then obviously, you joined our business, also, with us also being quite involved in sectional title law and sectional title management. So when we spoke about this before, what was it that you said to me about the trustees and the fact that, people sometimes don't know what they are almost letting themselves in for when they get elected as trustees?
Yeah, unfortunately, when trustees are elected as trustees, they do not actually know what they're in for. They don't know the legal implications in terms of running a sectional body corporate or a community scheme for that matter. There are certain rules and regulations which need to be adhered to, and they don't always necessarily know them. In many cases, the managing agent is not active or actively hands-on. So there's no one to turn to. And as you can well imagine, in the bigger schemes, there are billions of rands that trustees who are, for intents and purposes, are lay people. And they need to run and manage billions of rands worth of assets. And that's when, I think where you and I can come in, and we can definitely help them with the day-to-day running and letting them run a smoother complex with less infringements on the law.
I agree. I think that's the point, Cleon, that you're making. With sectional title law as it stands, and we keep on talking about sectional title law. Of course, we're referring to the Sectional Titles Act and its replacements now, the Sectional Title Management Act and all the other acts that are coming into play now. The fact of the matter is that it's a regulated industry, or it's a regulated type of business, which means that you have to comply with certain things, eh?
That is very true, and you were speaking now about the new acts that are coming in, the Sectional Title Scheme Management Act and the Community Schemes Ombudsman Act.
Yes,
and that's going to drastically change the playing field with regards to managing the day-to-day running of a scheme, as well as the arbitration and disciplinary hearings, which are inevitably part of sectional titles.
What I hear you say is the fact that in a sectional title scheme or any type of scheme where people live together, you're going to get differences of opinion and ways of doing things. Isn't that true?
Well, we are the Rainbow Nation, so we're all entitled to our opinion. Yes, our opinion may not be right, but we are entitled to our opinion, and especially since being South African, I think we traditionally in the past we are very used to wide open spaces. large stands, large earths, large houses,
Yes.
and now with land being a very scarce commodity these days, community schemes are getting very smaller, and people are basically encroaching upon your privacy.
Yeah.
And and we have a hard time, I think, coping with that, especially if there are different cultures living in a scheme. We need to get along, and I think that's one of the main complaints in terms of managing agents.
Yeah.
But they hear every day is, this person is doing that, and we're not agreeing with this or that. So yes, getting along, and especially the psychological impact on that. In terms of running a scheme for the trustees, because they ultimately are the ones who need to keep the peace and ensure a safe and smooth environment in the complex.
I think what I hear you say is obviously there's then a difference between outright owning your own property. In other words, you stay in your own property and you've only got the neighbors and the other properties, as differentiated from sectional titles where, it's a bunch of people living on very close together almost, so inevitably people are going to do things that bother other people. And you need rules and things to handle that, to ensure that they are living harmoniously together.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
With outright ownership, you could almost basically do what you wanted to do within certain legal limits, of course.
Yeah, sure.
But now, if you moved from that setup to a sectional title or scheme or a community scheme, obviously you can't work on your car and strip your car in the common property or in front of a neighbor's living area,
especially in front of their garage.
or run around naked, whatever, you did it.
Whatever is your thing.
Yes, you can't actually do that right now. And a lot of the owners or residents, they don't realize that before moving into a sectional title or a scheme, community scheme. So rules are there, as you said, to keep the peace and to keep and to have a smooth running of the scheme. And that is one of the things that the trustees need to know. What are the rules? How they can be enforced? And are there penalties for not abiding by the rules?
When we spoke about this the first time, Cleon, we said we wanted to bring something, we wanted to do something that will provide this information to people that are elected as trustees. And, we spoke about the number of things that we have to provide as information to trustees. But I remember you also said to me that it isn't actually that complicated. Once you understand the structure, it could actually be quite interesting and informative, obviously, but also quite easy to get your head around it.
Yes, it's not rocket science. There are just certain things, as you said, that you need to know. It's sort of an outline or a border, and if you know the skeleton, putting things into the muscles are very easy.
Okay.
So if you know there are rules, there are regulations, there are certain formalities, there are certain things which you can and cannot do, things which you must do on a certain day and time. If you know that, everything else can just fall into place.
Okay. So what did you identify as you got this information together? What areas or main areas, and we don't have to go into the details specifically now, but what main areas did you identify that trustees need to know about?
One thing is, I think the definitions of what is a sectional title and what is not sectional title, and then obviously with that comes the property, common property, exclusive use areas, and your own property, the laws or the rules within a sectional title, levies, and
Okay, so what I hear you say is initially you will start out by providing information about the relevant definitions in the law.
Yeah, and how it applies, how the law applies to a sectional title. The Constitution, the municipal bylaws, the Sectional Title Act, and then obviously ultimately for the sectional title itself, they prescribe management rules and maybe even conduct rules within the scheme itself. Yes.
Okay. One of the things that trustees do a lot is apply the rules. I think another thing which they do is obviously they're also responsible for the financial management of the scheme. Would your information, if we go to something like a webinar specifically for this, would that also include any information about, the financial management and what trustees have to do around that?
I think it should, because that is a very important part of the day-to-day running of a scheme by trustees. If we can just take an example, maybe insurance. There are various things that you need to insure in a sectional title scheme, and the trustees don't necessarily know what they are. And
give us a quick example.
One of the funnier examples is you need to insure against things falling from the sky. Not necessarily falling from the sky, but I mean there are certain
objects falling on the roofs, for instance.
Yes,
okay.
A plane might fall, or there might be a terrorist act. There might be a riot, so you need to insure against riots. I mean, we know in Cape Town and Johannesburg that has been in the news very often of late. And you need to ensure that people not falling from the roof. If they do fall from the roof, there need to be insurance claim for that. If you live in a high rise and there's a lift, you need to insure the lift. So there are a lot of things that we need to insure against, and I think when we do the webinar, we will touch on them point by point.
Okay, so essentially, we're going to be looking at the financial management of the scheme, which includes insurance of or insuring the buildings, all kinds of assets that are commonly used and commonly owned on the property, and also other things such as providing that there's enough money to pay the gardeners and the cleaners and the security company if there is one, things like that. Ensuring the day-to-day financial viability of your scheme.
Yeah, financial solvency in a scheme is very important, and as you know, and I think and many of the other people who are watching this webinar knows, the trouble that a scheme can get into if there isn't enough money to run the scheme. I've just read an article recently of a management company in Johannesburg, who managed 70 schemes and defrauded those 70 schemes. So if the trustees were knowledgeable of the financial day-to-day running, there might have been someone who's earlier could have said, "But listen, something's not right here," and that's a situation we would like to avoid.
Sure. And there are easy ways to get those controls in place.
Yes,
it doesn't mean that you cannot trust your managing agents. It just means that you also have to keep an eye on them, as with anything.
And I think one of the things we need to do is ask a managing agent if they are a member of NAMA. It's a voluntary association to be a member of, and
sorry, Cleon, what is NAMA?
The National Association of Managing Agents.
Okay. Yes.
It's a voluntary body that all managing agents can be part of, and they set some guidelines and a code of ethics on how to run your business and how to run schemes.
Okay.
And then obviously the most important thing is a managing agent needs to be registered as an estate agent at the Estate Agency Affairs Board.
That's right. Right. Yeah, so they'll have a Fidelity Fund certificate, for instance, and they'll also have a trust account, which needs to be audited and all that. Certainly, I think that's good information so far. One of the other things that you mentioned to me is all of the regulations and rules around meetings. The annual general meeting that needs to be held, the trustee meetings that need to be held from time to time. The information product that you're going to get together with maybe just the webinar then will also then cover, as I understand from you, meetings. Is that right?
Yeah, meetings is a very integral part of being a trustee and running the body corporate.
Yes.
From trustee meetings, which could be weekly, monthly, or bi-monthly, to special resolutions, to your more formal annual general meetings. And for each of those meetings, there's this prescribed way of letting people know about the meeting and how they are conducted, and then obviously what can be said and what can't be said, and who can join and who cannot join, and then obviously after the meetings, what special procedures which need to be done afterwards.
Okay, I think that's very interesting. Essentially, what I hear you say then is that with meetings, that's where decisions are made, and those decisions and meetings have to be done in a certain way, and you're going to be setting that out also in the upcoming webinar. Cleon, I think for now, we could obviously expand on this quite a lot, but the point is we need to have a special session as like a webinar to be able to expand on this, and we'll do that as soon as you and I are both available to do that. So thank you very much for offering that, and thank you also for the quick chat about this upcoming webinar today.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Deon, and I look forward to the webinar.
Okay, fantastic. We'll set it up soon, and I'll be in contact with you.
Thanks very much.